It's time for NuWellness TV with Dr. Lee. Join your host, the accomplished Dr. Cherilyn Lee, as she welcomes the leading experts in health and well-being as they explore the advancements in natural health, physical fitness, nutrition, integrative medicine, and self-discovery.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy I could follow instructions this morning. Thank you so much, Jarvis, our talented producer here. Thank you. We have, as always, a wonderful show for you. And I've been dealing with this topic personally, and majority of my patients are dealing with this topic. So, calming the chaos in caregiving. How do we calm the chaos in caregiving? Because there's so much going on. And when I'm dealing with a person who is a caregiver, I also treat the caregiver. I never leave the caregiver out because they need as much help as the person they're caring for. If you're a long-term caregiver, there is going to be a change in your white blood cell count. So you need to really watch yourself, check out your own health, because it's been documented that it's a slight change in your WBCs. So you want to look at not just the WBCs, but do a CBC and look at all of the cells as it relates to your body. And watch your immune inflammation markers when you are a caregiver, because things do shift in your body. They do shift, especially if you're caring for a loved one who's very close to you. Things do shift. Watch your heart. Watch your heart. Get a good EKG and see what's going on. But when you're a caregiver, please take care of yourself. And anyone that know me and come to my clinic, they know that I take care of the caregiver. So my wonderful guest here today, who's going to share with you some wonderful information as it relates to the caregiver, is Ms. Barbara Crawford. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you. All those people are happy you're here,
yes.
too. Yes.
I hear them.
Yes. Okay, so we're just going to jump in and get started. You're not new to NuWellness TV with Dr. Lee, so I'm just thanking you so much for being here again today. And also, your bio and everything was sent out email blast. So if anyone want to know more, we want to not waste our time in talking about, but you've done some wonderful things and you've come a long way. So a little bit again, let's just share a little bit about you.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. My most recent work has been working with PTSD at Fort Hood, and I worked with troops, active duty deployed troops, because I'd Skype with them in North Korea, Afghanistan, and Iraq, and then also with their families. And I was there for 4 years and just loved working with military, and I teach tools on how to become emotionally self-sufficient. So it not only affects wonderfully the symptoms of PTSD, reduces and in many cases resolves the symptoms, but it also improves their relationship, their work relationships, their personal relationships, and really gives them the ability to live what I call from the inside out instead of outside in. Mm-hmm. Instead of thinking life is happening to them, they have choices now on how they respond to what is happening. So I love doing that work. I've worked now with thousands of troops and their family members, and that all started back in California. And then I was asked to move to Fort Hood, and I've written for a newspaper in Harker Heights area, and then also was on their Waco news channel. Especially when we had a shooting at Fort Hood.
Yes.
Not the well-known one, but another one. And I was able to speak on the news about how to care for the children, because they're so affected by trauma that they see on TV. So I've done a lot of things with trauma and violence, survivors of violence. So that's been what I've been doing. And then 2 years ago, I received a phone call in June that my mother was ill, and could I come out because my sister has a full-time child care. So I said, sure, I'll come out, of course, and helped her, and realized within a short amount of time I wasn't going to be moving back to Texas. Mm-hmm. So I've been in California again for the last 2 somewhat almost 2.5 years.
And you are a caregiver.
Yes. And
Yes.
my mom passed away actually yesterday, 2 years ago yesterday.
Sorry to hear
And
that.
my dad has Parkinson's, and it became really evident that he needed the support. Not so much that he's very independent and a very happy person, but just to take care of those things that are overwhelming when you're by yourself anyways.
Exactly,
You know,
exactly.
bills, the house, all those type of things, but also just keeping him on track with meds and really filling his life list. We don't call it a bucket list because that means he's leaving. So we call it the let's get it done list.
Yes,
And
yes.
so we've done New York and all kinds of
Oh,
fun
how
things that he's never
fun.
done. And
Yeah.
he's afraid to say, hey, I'd like to go do that, because the next thing he knows, we've booked that trip and we're ready. So he's a little bit reluctant to say. When he said hang gliding, we're still working on getting him hang gliding. No, not hang gliding, zip lining.
Zip lining. What is zip lining?
That's where you sit in the chair or a harness, and then you zip through usually treetops or over
Oh, okay.
an area. And so we were thinking of Catalina has a really nice one, and he's like, "Oh no, I shouldn't have said I wanted to zip line." But what
I think I'm going to try that. That sounds like fun.
It's amazing.
Make
And
sure my heart is beating good that day.
Yeah.
That sounds
one
like
of
a
his
little.
best friends, who's 83 as well, she had done zip lining. I said, well, Patty's gone zip lining, so now you have to.
Okay. And it's all, we find out when people have more to do, and I'm finding out when a person have love around them,
Yeah.
Especially the caregiver, they just have a much more meaningful life.
Yes.
You
they
know,
do.
and they're happier. Well, you're releasing healing endorphins, and that's what happened because you're constantly being stimulated. I have a situation where the lady actually, it's a male patient, and he is in his 90s with dementia, and he was kind of just put in the bedroom, and nobody ever goes in there. No one, there's a caregiver, and she's really a sweetheart. She goes in and feed him and talk to him and stimulate him when she's there. But when she leaves and she's never there on the weekend, because I went by the house, I was just curious.
Yeah.
And he's just locked up in a room with a TV turned on in front of him with no human touch, no nothing. And you could just see the person look miserable.
Right.
They don't even put the person in a wheelchair. The person could go in a wheelchair and just sit him outside in the sun.
Right.
So, how you take care of a person, you have to realize, what goes around comes around too.
Right.
So you better watch how you take care of that parent.
This is true. This
You need
is
to
very
watch
true.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because when my mom was ill, she had heart surgery, and it just, due to a lot of mistakes by the doctors, instead of bringing her home because she wasn't mobile, we chose the rehab home, and she really didn't do well there. And part of it was she was, I think, ready. She was, if she couldn't be who she was before, she wasn't really happy.
Right.
So, I realize now, it's all hindsight. I don't carry guilt from it. But if the situation was to come up with my dad, where they were saying, he's too difficult, you have to help him get to the restroom, whatever, it'd be better to be in a rehab. I will never do that again. Never.
Yeah.
I wish I would have brought her home and just had help. And I think she would have done a lot better. That was, I think September. August, she went into the nursing home, and it just wasn't good for her at all. And
No.
I tried to be there a lot, but
Yeah, and I did. It wasn't, a lot of the family still blamed me for my mom's situation, but it wasn't my doing for the nursing home because her situation was totally different.
right,
When you keep finding a parent unconscious,
yeah,
and unresponsive 2 or 3 times per week,
right,
where they're back and forth in the hospital, and all they wanted to do was get her medication controlled.
right,
Because I took her at a point I went and moved in with my mother, so I had a 50-mile round trip drive back and
Wow.
forth to go to work just to move in with her.
yeah,
But it didn't matter. That's my mom, and I loved her.
right,
So you'd do anything for your parent. And so in doing that, it was still didn't help. Then I would take her to work with me, so she wouldn't, because when she didn't have something going on, because it wasn't like Parkinson's or dementia or anything, a little bit of it, but not much. She was fine.
Right.
She was fine. But for her to go to work with me, and just she got bored. I don't want to go with you. And I said, well, Mom,
Yeah.
we're going out to dinners. We're doing this. We're doing that. Took her to pre-Oscar parties, pre-Grammy parties, because those are things she had wanted to do. And we
Right.
went to so many things. My mother loved to dress as well. Sure, that's where I got that from. Kind of got that from her. But we did so much together.
Oh.
But the doctor said, we need to just keep her at a place just for 30 days.
Right.
To get her medication regulated, because she won't take it. She forgets. And as long as she takes it, she won't have a seizure. And that was her
Right.
thing with seizures. But she was unresponsive so many times, like 3 or 4 times a week we're calling the paramedic.
Right.
To the point, and I had it out with one of the doctors because he told me, or told my sister, when your mother have a seizure, just leave her.
Wow.
Just leave her. Don't call the paramedics every time that happens. I'm like, you've got to be kidding.
Wow.
My sister's not a medical person. How she's going to know the difference between a seizure and,
Right. Yeah.
and the thing is, this has happened with so many people. When we listen to other authorities, you have to make sure that person is safe.
Right.
Oh,
it's so true. And,
you have to know they're safe. So, we're going to be talking about, our topic is calming the chaos with the caregiver.
Yeah.
Because there was so much chaos around people and situations. I see it.
Oh,
That
there's
if
the
you don't
emotional
calm,
chaos.
there's guilt, there's this,
Yeah.
there's that. And, I am just very grateful that that part of my life I don't have, because that would make you very ill,
Yeah. It
very,
can.
very ill. And that's why I've been as well as I have with no problems. But, and when a person is looking in, and I know I have a family member that may be watching, because I had to go back to her and apologize to her because I just thought that she wasn't doing enough. I just thought that her attitude was not quite right. So I did a lot of things. I really built up some resistance and resentment against her. And, when she
Yeah.
was caring for my mom, not knowing until she left and I
you were
took her
living it,
place.
right.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is what she's been going through? I'm surprised because she almost had 2 nervous breakdowns.
Oh.
And nobody knew that. Well, she passed out at work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, literally passed out. And they had to tell her, you're under too much stress. And it was because she was the caregiver. And then when I stepped in and I'm like, oh, why did she treat her like this? She wasn't treating her like anything. A lot of this, we have to watch the person themselves and see how they respond, because sometimes they become bitter,
Right.
angry, aggressive, and certain things you got to do to keep them calm. So I don't know, sometimes the family being the caregiver, depending, see, your situation is different. You're a loving caregiver, and just like we were, but it was a little bit different, I think, in the diagnosis.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. But when you can step in and can quit your job and can do things like that, it's a little different. But when you can't and you're dealing with other people, because I have a friend who have written a book on caregivers,
Right.
you got to make sure they understand, that they can hear you, that, everything, because the hearing is impaired. They don't think as quick as they used to.
Right.
You got to have very great patience. And then the stress involved with that, with the person, and like I said, the guilt. So let me hear what you have to say in calming the chaos, because there's a lot of chaos.
It is a lot of chaos. I remember when I came,
Yes.
I realized things that needed to be done that hadn't been done for a while. And that happens as, people age. It's not that they're not good at taking care of things. It's just some things slip through, their
Yes.
fingers. And so I realized there were certain things that I wanted to do to support my dad, and was hopefully my mom was going to come home. And then I realized also that there had to be easier ways to accomplish the outcomes I was looking for. So it was really taking a step back, and I use this in my ESS work, emotional self-sufficiency work, is what's not working yet, and then what is it I do want? What would it feel like if everything flowed and was effortless?
Yes.
And then where are the stop points? Where am I getting stuck or not taking care of things when they need to get done? And so the first year I was there all by myself, and then my husband retired early so he could join me as well. and I looked at the meds, how we were tracking the meds and keeping track of them, and I looked at, he didn't have a med list, so every time we went to the doctors, we had to write a new list, write it out, and I thought this, and after doing it with my mom several times with doctors, I thought this is BS.
Yes.
I am not doing this every time I go to the doctors. And so I went home and I took a list of all her surgeries, all her meds, and put them all into a little form so that I could just hand it to the doctor or staple it to the forms, or I'd ask for them ahead of time and then just attach it. So I found little shortcuts and little hacks. And then I realized if someone came and took care of my dad, he has AM, PM, and then meds he has to take every 3 hours.
Exactly.
So we made a list of all the meds, AM, PM, their timing, what they're for, what the amount is. And then I took laid all the pills on that and then took a picture of it. So if someone else stepped in, because let's say I got sick or something like that, and his pill case fell over, it would have been hell. They would have had to look through each bottle to figure out where the pills go. This way they just look at that list and they go, oh, the blue pill goes in the AM, the whatever. And that
was really wise to take a picture.
Oh, it was so cool.
Yeah.
And I save it as a photo. I send it to all the family members that are coming in sometimes when we're out. And it just, my dad was like, wow, that's really detailed. I said, because Dad, if you drop that,
yes,
I don't want to have to try to remember by my memory, because that's not always great. And so I just looked at the things from my not quite right list. How can I make my life more effortless in taking care of the situation, from the bills to, I put everything on bill pay. I made sure that everything was dated when it was supposed to go out, and that way I could start tracking. And then the other thing is, and this is a simple one, but a lot of times when people come and take care, especially of elderly family members, there's a lot of junk mail that comes to the house. And that doesn't sound like a big deal, but we were getting 25 to 30 pieces of mail a day from nonprofits, from this and that. So I figured out which ones they really wanted to support. And then I wrote, at first I just sent them back, do not send. Well, they just end up in the trash. The mail person told me, return to sender. So then I wrote on them and put them back in and put a stamp on and said, please take them off the list. Please take them off the list.
Okay.
I did the...
Yeah, that's good to know so people can do that.
Because you can get bombarded by, we used to get a bazillion phone calls a day from all these, they have lists of people's ages, so they know who to call to get them to do certain things, believe it or not. So what I started, our Spectrum has a wonderful service on the phone that if people are calling through and they're just doing it through those robocalls, they don't get it only rings once. Sometimes I would get like 20 calls a day of just baloney calls, sales calls. So just getting rid of that clutter and chaos is amazing. Taking care of the meds so that it's effortless and that you're not
I like
this
that,
every
because
day.
we had the little container.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a big advocate on all the meds, but that's my mom, and her doctor put her on them. So, and there's other family members, so you don't just you keep them on their meds.
Right. But having them pictured is made
it's really
a huge
great.
difference.
I like that,
and the doctors like it. And also having that list in my purse at all times, the list of his surgeries, allergies, and his meds. I can ask when they start to prescribe another medicine, which we just had with a orthopedic doctor. Oh, he can take that. And I said, I'm sorry, I've read there's some issues with that. I'm not going to mention the medicine right now or the doctor, but
okay.
And he said, oh, no, he can take that. And I said, well, here's his list. I gave him the list, even though I know he had it there. And I said, please look over that. He's on Parkinson's, heart, all these different meds. Please make sure there's no conflict. And he glanced at it and said, there isn't at all. Well, we took it to the pharmacist, and the pharmacist said, he can't take these meds with those Parkinson's, with the carbidopa, devilopa. And you can't trust the doctors. That's the other thing. You can't trust. Ask a bazillion questions. And if your gut says this doctor doesn't have his best interest in your person, I don't call them patients because that just sounds, I like person. Your person, then you go and get a new doctor and you interview other doctors. If I had done that with my mom, I think it would have been an entirely different case with the heart doctor, because the minute I started asking questions, he started dismissing me, wouldn't even look at me, and I knew right then, no.
That's a problem. It's a problem.
So that calms a lot of the inner chaos and clutter. But that list of what's not quite right yet when you start doing the caregiving, and then how would you like it to flow or feel, is really key, because the other part of that is surrounding yourself with people who are supportive, who will really
Yes.
listen.
You mean
And
as caregivers or family members?
it
'Cause
could be
sometime-
family members or friends, but not always family members,
Yes,
because
that's
they have.
really hard.
And it's taken me a while to really get to this place. Yes, I chose, and my husband and I chose to be on Team Daddy Bear, as we call
Yes.
it. And we made that choice.
Yes.
And not everybody is able, or is their suitcase of life packed to be in that position.
Right. And then they shouldn't feel guilty
No.
because they're not. That's what I had to do with some friends right now who family members are out of state. You know, you don't feel guilty because you can't be there every second.
Right.
You know, do as much as you can while you can. I like FaceTime, you know,
Yeah.
keep them away from those cell phones as much because of the EMF. So you don't want that, you know, from the energy in their brains and holding onto those phones either. But that they can still see you.
Right.
They can still see you. So
it's important.
but not feeling guilty because you cannot be there. Yeah, because
Right.
I took that on too because I wanted to.
Right.
Yeah, and my
It's always a
sister,
choice.
and I really felt she needed a break. You know, and just one of my sisters was really, really who hung in there. She
Right.
was amazing.
And it's important, too, for the people that can't be there on a daily basis to offer to be there to give those respites. And I talk about respites a lot when I work with other caregivers, because I had an opportunity when I worked in Fort Hood to work with a lot of the spouses of injured soldiers, troops, and veterans. And so little did I know I'd be living it myself in a way. And one of the things that I really encourage them to do is find those safe people, one, to vent if you need to.
Yes.
To also to give you respite. And my dad's not hard at all. He's an amazing guy. He's super happy. He's really intelligent and he loves to talk. He's just an amazing man. I mean, this is such a pleasure for me to be able to do this. My husband and I feel the same way.
Yes.
There is that need, though, sometimes where we need to just be by ourselves, my husband and I. So my kids have been the best support ever because
you're blessed.
for Thanksgiving, they're 5 days before Thanksgiving, my oldest daughter, thank you, Sarah, organized all the kids to be at the house. And so we can have 5 days. So we're just going to take the motor home and go off somewhere, and it'll be wonderful. But the thing is it's important to daily set up respite for yourself. If it's like my first cup of coffee sitting out on my deck, that's like my quiet time. Unless there's an emergency,
You have to have that time.
I need to have that space, and
You
I
have to have it.
meditate. I use my peaceful place exercise that I teach, and I use that just to bring myself in and really be present to what is unfolding, what could unfold today and it really sets me up. And then the other thing is respite is also what kind of music do you listen to that speaks to your heart. So if I'm in the office doing financial things and budget stuff and things, I have my Pandora peaceful type music on and that really speaks to my heart. And then also books that speak to you.
Wonderful.
So those to me are like built-in respite. And then creating at least an afternoon or an evening. Sometimes we'll walk to the pier or we'll go just grab a beer at the local little place near us in walking distance. Because Dad, he's fine. He can be left. We did put I've fallen, I can't get up necklace when he wears.
Yes.
Because if he was to fall and he didn't bring his cell phone in his pocket and he couldn't get up for some reason.
Exactly.
This is just a safety net. And so
It's a wonderful safety net as well.
right,
Wonderful.
and it just gives everybody confidence. And so those things of building in the respite through prayer, meditation, whatever speaks to your heart, music, gardening, whatever, those things that really fill your soul.
Exactly.
And you don't get, your tank doesn't, you never want to get your peace and calm tank low.
'Cause there was a lady situation where her daughter was very ill, and she was the caregiver for her daughter. Well, I'm not going to go into the whole story because so many people know the story, what happened with her. But when she became very ill, the mother was very bitter because of what had happened to her. She was just very, very bitter. And the mother ended up dying before the daughter.
Oh.
Yeah, because of all the anger.
Oh, yeah.
You got to let go of stuff. You can't let it just hold you down, wear you down.
No.
And it was just amazing. And the daughter actually still living, and this was like 10 years ago. Daughter's still
Wow,
living.
that says a
Yeah.
lot about thought.
Yes.
You know
yes.
because thoughts will eat you alive,
Yes, they will.
and you're feeding it.
Yes, yes, you are.
And that brings up a perfect segue. Is one of the things when I'm working with caregivers, and I have to be very aware of because I can see when it happens, and I know because I have an intention and a way of being. Anytime I start feeling anything other than peaceful or calm or happy, we don't mess with happy. I love happy, but if I'm not peaceful and calm, then I know I'm dragging some thought and I'm
Yes.
giving it space in my brain, and I'm actually dwelling with it. And so we have to be very cognizant of every thought we allow in our
I
mind.
think that's what, 6,000?
It's more than that. It's like 60,000 or something.
60,000. Okay, left
Yeah.
the zero out.
And
Yeah. per
there's
day.
a great scripture of hold that every thought captive, and there's a reason why. Whatever your belief system is question every thought. So when I have clients come to me and they're just down and are upset and angry, I say, okay, what have you been thinking? What have your thoughts been? Because in order to feel a certain way, you have to be thinking a certain way.
You certainly do.
And then your actions match. So it's really important. So and I do it myself. I'll go, man, I'm feeling really edgy and irritated and annoyed and disappointed, which is another way to spell expectations or vice versa. So then I write down what are the unmet expectations I'm wrestling with right now.
Exactly.
And then I go, okay, well, what is showing up? And then how can I show up? And then I write out. I have a lot of writing that I just do is questioning my thoughts. How am I feeling? And
Questioning your thoughts are very good.
it's powerful.
It's very powerful. I have a book that I've written called Detox. The book is called Written Before I Was Born.
Oh, yes.
But there is a meditation component to the book, which I'm putting on the market actually this month.
Oh, yay.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
entitled, it's been out for a long time, but it's entitled Detox the Mind and the Body Will Heal.
Yeah.
And it deals with toxic thoughts and all these things. If you don't detox that, people always telling me they're detoxing. You have to detox all these negative patterns, so that the body will heal. So just like you're saying here, if you don't, come to grips with your thoughts,
Oh, yeah.
they can get you in trouble.
Oh, big time. I was, and it was funny that you called yesterday because I was really thinking about,
Yes.
as I was waking up, I do this thing when I'm coming through the fog from slumber, total sleep to coming up. My mind goes to writing. It just always does. And so I was getting up to write down all this, and that's when you called, and I was laughing. I was like, guess I'm supposed to share on caregiving. To know that there's always choices, and if you're becoming reactive as a caregiver to everything, then you know that it's time to look back and say, what am I thinking, and how is that causing me to feel, and how can I shift my thoughts? So one of the things that Larry and I do is we check in, and when one of us hits the wall, they just go off to our quiet space. We have a little sanctuary out on our deck, or they go to bed, or they go read. Whichever one of us feels like we're hitting the wall, because it's not just the caregiving. Is you're taking care of so much more. And most
Yes,
caregivers
you are. Yes.
And most caregivers are women. And when it's family on family, I think the AARP put out it was 60% were women or more, and you're not only also taking care of this person, this space, all their needs and their emotional needs. You also have typically as a woman your other side of that equation, which is your kids, even if they're adults, and they're your grandkids and their lives. So you really are in this sandwich. So it's as important it is to make sure that I have all my plates spinning and everything's going smooth here and there. It's very important that I am. And that's why one of the things, and you'll like this, is I encourage people, go get all your blood tests done. I want to see where your 12 is, your vitamin B, your D, your magnesium. I never thought of the blood white. The white blood
there
cells.
is a shift in the white blood cells.
I'd like to, and so,
shift.
and I have them also as females check their thyroid, because what I saw growing up too is I noticed people who had either special needs children or were taking care of their parents or whatever. As I was growing up, I noticed as a young adult too that their health went to crap.
Oh, no, it will.
They gained tons of weight.
That happened to me with mine, and I'm thinking, oh, my goodness. But there were so many episodes of things happening and her back and forth still in the hospital. And I'm thinking, oh no,
and
she's
that
going to
creates all that
she's
stress.
going to become happier. That some friends of mine walked in and they said, you better take care of yourself because you don't look like you're going to be with us too much longer.
Right. Yeah.
And when I did check blood pressure, it was like it was sky high. And I'm like, okay, because I'm in the middle wanting her safe, wanting the best for her. And then you try to pull in everybody to help, but that doesn't happen all the time.
Right. And so what I really encourage caregivers is find that time to exercise, get your blood tests done, and add the supplements that are needed. Make sure you're having not only the healthy time for your mind, but also your body, that you are exercising, and eating is so important.
Oh, yes.
And I talked to him about, prepping, because like one of the things we work on doing is when Larry, he does the shopping. I love you, Larry. He goes to like 2 or 3 stores, does all the shopping. I think it's because he gets to see something begin and end, and he's a logistics person.
Okay.
So when he can see a project begin with a list and end with at home, he feels like, I've conquered.
Okay.
So, and I feel like when he brings the groceries in and I'm putting it away, I'm cutting up vegetables, I'm putting them in containers, so I'm prepping myself for success all week to eat healthy, but also easy, because I do all the meals most of the time, and so I should say, so what I have done is really work on prepping for success, and most people don't. They kind of, and I used to wing it too by the seat of my pants in life, and I realized the results weren't always what I liked.
No.
So when I prep for success, doesn't mean always success happens. But then I don't live from what happens to me. I live from that inner peace space of, okay, I'm curious why this is unfolding this way, because I love curiosity, because it has no judgment. Have you ever noticed that when someone gets sick and they say, oh, this is so bad?
Yeah.
They've already living into it being bad, where I come from, wow, I'm really curious why this showed up in me or in my life.
Yes.
What's my next best response?
Yes. And that's what I do, actually.
Yeah, I know you definitely do.
But I do that.
When I hear someone say, oh, it's so bad, I go, whoa, back it up.
No.
Let's talk about being curious.
Being curious and what is the lesson in it for me.
Right.
Because there's a lesson and usually there's a blessing.
Right.
Because I've had so many things happen. I said, well, where was the blessing in this? Well, the blessing was you better always get a contract.
Right.
And it was a family member who did some work for me. And I said, oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Always a contract. So it was a lesson, but it was a beautiful blessing.
Right.
Because that never happened again.
Yeah. Nope.
We
learned so much from my. What did someone say the other day? That it's win and learn. There is no win and lost.
Yes,
lose.
win and learn.
It's win and learn, and I love that because
I love that, win and learn.
Yeah, because there is no loss if you have learned something from it. Then it's a gain.
Yes.
And but yeah, I really talk to people and myself. Larry and I consistently get blood tests done. We're always checking in with the doctor.
Always. I just gave those 2, but it's a whole gamut.
We get a full panel to make sure.
Especially the inflammation marker,
right?
And your fibrinogen. People have to know what the fibrinogen levels are, because that's now some doctors have speaking on it and calling it sticky blood. But that's when the blood is clotting. You're not drinking enough water. You're under a lot of stress. Things start developing in the body, but try to do things and look into it. Dry skin brushing, which is so simple for the lymphatic system.
Right.
It's a lot of things on YouTube to show you how to do your dry skin brushing or jumping up and down on a trampoline. But whatever you do, there's a little exercise I normally show people. I can't stand up here because I don't think the camera will carry over. But you stand up and you just take your knees, and you take your knees and go back and forth with your knees. And then you try to go back and forth and bring it all the way up to your hips, and then bring it all the way up to your shoulders, like you're just, moving your shoulders back and forth. And when you do that for just 2 minutes, you can actually feel when you stop the circulation even better. You can just feel the stimulation. So if you do that when you first get up, wake up those lymphatic systems,
right.
Especially as the patient or the person, and also the caregiver, because we have to keep the caregiver healthy.
Yes. And I had along the health lines is Larry and I we used to walk a lot, and we still fit that in, but riding has been my getting back to my 8-year-old self. I love riding a bike, and I used to ride with Ride to Recovery Road.
Okay.
In fact, it was 6 years ago that I finished the California, San Francisco to Santa Monica, And I was just looking at all the pictures on Facebook, and I
thank
just
goodness.
love writing. It's that freedom space for me.
Mm-hmm.
And we both love it. So we've picked up writing. I don't write on the street anymore. It's too dangerous, but I write on paths. And that is, other than writing on the back of Larry's motorcycle, which I will someday get a new one, we will. That's like my freedom space. And it's really important that as caregivers, we don't lose ourselves in the caregiving, that we continue to build ourselves, because as a caregiver, you can get burnt out so quick and be at the end of your rope.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing, is to find those safe people that you can be at the end of the rope with, and you can say all those things, and they're not going to judge you. They're not going to try to fix you. That's the other thing. If you're a friend of a caregiver, stop fixing.
No.
Just listen, let it land, and then ask permission to offer input. Like I say, always ask, can I offer some pasta against the wall? You know, BB's pasta.
Yes.
If it sticks, great. If it doesn't, I don't care. You don't have to do it for me. And it frees the person up. And when you allow a person to know that what you're sharing does not need to be taken as gospel, it does not have to, may not be their truth.
Yeah.
But and what I've found is oftentimes if it's not the truth for them or it doesn't stick for them, we find another truth by that one sliding down and them going, oh, well, that makes me think of this. This could work possibly. And having that tribe around you, joining those online groups that support caregivers, supporting this particular whatever, because every disease, every infliction is different.
Different, yes.
And
it's like what you just stated earlier about your mom. You know, mine was totally different. So finding a person unconscious was, it's not good. And most of the time she would be fine. And
that's scary. Yes.
It was very scary, to the point that she would say, how is it that you're telling me all these things happen and nobody else does? I said, well, I don't know if they're really watching.
Right.
So one time I really videotaped her.
Wow.
To let her see, because she had no idea.
No,
she just
she
wake
wouldn't.
up from the hospital and say, okay, where are we going to dinner? You know, it was like, okay, Mom, we're going to go here. And certain things she really loves, so we would go there all the time.
Oh.
And I said, now don't do this so we can go to dinner. We can go to dinner anytime.
This doesn't have to be a prerequisite with the dinner.
But I want to say, my oldest daughter, she took off. She was actually pregnant at the time, and she moved in with my mother to take care of my mother. And it was, and I really commend her for doing that during that time. And I want to say, you said taking off and getting, and her space for being out there is a truck driver. She loved driving trucks. She said, I just love being in the open field. So she met her husband, so they both are. So.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
So, we love the front of the motorhome, just all that space, or the motorcycle.
Yeah. This is my oldest daughter. I love her dearly, even though she has other thoughts. And one day you'll meet her.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's wonderful.
Well, that would be great. Yeah, it's a growing field, caregiving is, and I love the term too, care team, you know, because people are living so much longer. So I kiddingly tell my kids, you know, so this is how well you'll be taking care of us. And I think we've earned a spot of, we would do that for you.
Yeah, I have 3 daughters. I think it would really be a hassle because all 3 of them have their own way of how they want to take care of me. And I'm like, you guys are not going to have to take care of me. You know, my grandfather lived to be 100, and, you know, he did need some help down the line. But because I know so much nutritionally, I do what I can to take care of myself. So I said, I'm not going to be where you need to take care of me, honey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the ultimate. But with our growing population,
that's my mindset.
Yeah, and it's mine too.
Yeah.
We need to really bring together support systems for, you know, the caregivers, but also, you know, the family, and
definitely
and be in the healthiest space. Because I do, when I've worked with many caregivers, there is that place where that anger turns outward.
Oh,
and
yes.
So it you know, and it's really about being in awareness. And one of the ways to continue to be in awareness is really checking in all the time. Like yesterday, Larry had a lot of things on the plate because he was taking care of things around the house and different things. And he was in the living room or kitchen, and he's just closed his eyes. And I said, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm getting present. I'm getting present." And that's what we both do. We'll just take these nice big deep breaths, because you can get caught up in the runaway train of what has to be done, what you didn't do, and it becomes all consuming.
Yeah.
And so it's really important.
And people get very stressed behind that. Yeah.
And one of the best things I've found is if I feel anything other than peaceful and neutral, I know it's time for me to question my thoughts.
Peaceful and neutral.
Yep.
I love that.
And that's my normal flow. If I start getting caught up, it's because I've created an expectation. I'm in judgment. And it's time for me to take that breath, slow down, create the thoughts that support and serve me and what my intentions are.
Yes.
And when I do that, it is amazing how it can shift me from being in this very either sad or frustrated space into the joy again of being in the moment.
Yeah.
And when we can really capture the fact that the only time that we feel anything less than peaceful or neutral is when we're either stuck in those expectations, the unmet expectations, or we're also dragging stuff from the past and then creating these future stories that don't even exist yet. But we're already living in the panic of the story. And when I've worked with people in hospice, when I was talking with one of the nurses, she said, it's so sad. You'll see these families with their family member going through hospice. They're not going to graduate from hospice other than to leave the planet.
Yes.
And they're so caught up in the stories and the fear of being without that person that they're not even present with the person right now. And so I would work
That's very sad. I see that.
Yeah. And I work with families about being present right here, right now.
Right now.
And, I wish with my mom, I had spent more time gleaning the stories. But she had already started shifting. And she didn't want to talk to anybody. She just wanted to be on her own and quiet. And I didn't realize that was one of the steps, that pulling back.
Yes.
I didn't know that was a step of the process of dying. If I'd known, I would have pushed a little bit more, I think, and had her at home and all those things. And that's the other thing is, like, I have no guilt about what I didn't do the way I do it now with my dad. What I didn't do with my mom, I refuse to have guilt about it. I take it as a learn. And I was a strong daughter bear. In fact, you would hear when I walked into the nursing home, the nurses going, "Hey, BB's here. Hey, BB," loud enough so all the nurses down the row would know I'm coming into my mom's room.
Yes.
Because one time I found her after a heart patient, open heart surgery, with her legs down in a wheelchair, and I lifted up her pants leg and pulled her sock down, and they were dark purple.
Oh, no.
There are times you can really be angry, and it's righteous anger. And that was one of those hell no.
Yeah.
And boy, I never caught, Mom didn't know enough at that point to have her feet up. And I said, "I'm sorry, this is not acceptable." So they would literally start calling out my name. So if anything was amiss, it would be fixed.
It would quickly.
Because Daughter Bear was in town.
Well, I was the type person, because of the doctor who wanted my mom there for 30 days, ended up being longer, because she still, within 30 days, she had 60 seizures.
Oh, my goodness.
And nobody knew that, no one but myself and my other sister. So it's like, oh, why is she still there? I'm like, well, they want to get it under control. She can't be, can you imagine having someone in a car with you on the freeway and they having a grand mal seizure on the freeway?
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm trying to hold her and deal with the car at the same time.
I can't.
So I tell people, to be very, very careful and kind of know the triggers. There are some triggers to certain things, too. And I knew her triggers.
Right.
So be very careful with the triggers. But I want to say that I thank you for allowing me to call you at the last minute.
I do real well at spontaneous combustion.
I want to thank you so much. But I know this was needed. I just didn't know it was needed right now. But everything happens for a reason.
Right.
And I'm sure there's someone listening, that you're saying, let me now turn in to myself. And also check in with yourself before you become that caregiver, because sometimes you shouldn't be the one. If you're still holding on to anger and guilt or anger against that person, you shouldn't be the caregiver, because it's not going to be great for you, and it's not great for that person's healing.
Right.
So don't become a caregiver if you have not let go and forgiven that person or yourself. Don't become the caregiver, and work on yourself, then step back into that arena.
Right.
But I want to thank you so much for for being here. And you probably have
thank you.
30 seconds. If you can look into the eyes of and then tell them one in 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay. As a caregiver, the temptation is to fall in that chasm of doing everything for the other person and not taking care of you. That's not good. You need to take care of you. So I really encourage you, make sure your health's on track. Also make sure you have that quiet space, that time, that music, the book, whatever it is, prayer, meditation. And then also surround yourself with people that support, empathize with you, and also will call you to your highest good. If they start seeing you falling in a situation where you could take better care of yourself or whatever it is, if they can speak truth to you and you can hear the truth, that's really awesome to have those people in your life.
Thank you for saying that. That's absolutely wonderful. And that's wonderful. And as I always end the show, just always know that the I am is so powerful. So repeat after me. I am so grateful.
So grateful.
And I really feel that in your spirit. So grateful.
So grateful.
That I am a magnet for miracles. And this time, be a magnet for joy and happiness as well. Everyone, please have a wonderful, blessed day. We'll see you in a week.
Join us every Wednesday live at 11 a.m. for NuWellness TV with Dr. Lee. Remember, healthy mind, healthy body.